By the way, I want to say congratulations on it's, these things are difficult. It's very easy to, take shots at someone who's out there in the square trying to do a thing. And so, I admire your courage in putting yourself out there. I just want to say that. But, part of your rationalization is like Biden is going to lose. But Trump's got a lot of stuff going on here, too. So, how do you look at the legal landscape that is facing him? Do you think that he's in big trouble from a legal perspective? And how does that tie into his political chances?
Yeah. So let's break that out. So first of all, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it. And yes, a lot of people are like, "Oh, you can't win." Oh, really? Oh, you geniuses just figured out that it might be a long shot. Okay. Yes, I'm perfectly aware that it's a long shot. Second of all, the reason I'm running is because of another giant piece of news that came out today that further supports exactly what I've been saying all along, which is Morning Consult poll saying that Biden is now losing 5 out of 7 swing states and tied in a sixth, and barely hanging on in Nevada. He's losing Pennsylvania. We cannot lose Pennsylvania. We can't come close to losing Pennsylvania. He's down by 10 points to independence. What I'm trying to do, guys, is snap the country out of the trance that it's in. That as if a guy who's down 24 points on the economy can win. It's never happened. And people think Biden is the one miracle charismatic candidate that is so overwhelmingly liked by the American people and so good at politics that he's going to overcome a 24-point deficit on the economy, 10-point deficit with independence. So I'm sorry. I desperately, desperately don't want Trump to win, but Biden's going to lose. In fact, I literally bought the website bidensgonalose.com. Okay. So, and so I'm going to say it. I don't care how much it hurts people's feelings. There's a frickin' iceberg straight ahead. Turn the ship. Okay. So we'll get to who, me, all that in a second. But to your point, Crystal, here's a second thing that I got to snap people out of the trance of, because apparently I get it. Laymen don't know how the legal system works. First of all, if Trump wins, all the federal cases disappear instantly. In 1 second flat, they're gone. Jack Smith's cases, etc., wiped away. I don't want anyone having even 1% doubt about that. Gee, I wonder if he'll pardon himself and fire everyone at the Justice Department who was trying to prosecute him. He'll even put them in jail. Please don't be ridiculous, okay? So secondly, well, how about the state cases? Ladies and gentlemen, we got them, right? No, we don't. He's going to appeal them. So what if he's convicted? MAGA and independents he's already charged with 91 crimes. Does it look like it hurt his numbers? He's crushing Biden. It hasn't hurt his numbers at all, and it's not going to hurt his numbers. And he's not going to go to jail. He's going to appeal. And then what's going to happen? In a good case scenario where he loses in Atlanta or loses in New York, and then he's convicted in a state court, but he's the sitting president of the United States. And by the time the appeals are done, it'll be like 2025, 2026. What are they going to do? Go arrest the president? No, they're not. And it's going to be totally irrelevant and totally useless if he wins the presidency, which he is completely on track to do right now. JankForAmerica.com, BidensGonnaLose.com.
So, I mean, I'm sympathetic to the idea. I'm sympathetic to the argument of like, look, as you like to call him, Biden's a wounded antelope, right? Like he's not doing well. I honestly think just the face value reasons, like, he's really old and he kind of stumbles and bumbles his way through sentences. And so just like optic stuff alone, I'm sympathetic to the argument. But I do want to provide the counter argument and get your response. So I looked at the Real Clear Politics average of the polls last night, and they actually have Biden and Trump dead tied at 44.3% nationally. And according to 538, Biden is underwater with his approval rating 14 points, and Trump is underwater 15 points. So I think it's fair to say dead tied on that front. You already brought up the 91 criminal charges against Trump. Obviously, you don't think that's... Okay, you don't think it's going to impact him that much. I disagree on that. But, like, even this notion, there's no way he can win. I mean, I remember very vividly during the midterms, everybody around me was telling me red wave, red wave, red wave. And I was like, I don't know about that. I'm kind of agnostic. And it turned out I was right. It wasn't a red wave. It was a red trickle. And then you also have these recent special elections. There were 38 special elections recently, and Dems are outperforming the polls by an average of 10 points. So the fact that you have all that stuff, plus I think Roe versus Wade really changed the political dynamic in the country. And then you also have the Republicans are in disarray. And, you know, the election denialism is also, I think, hurting them massively. It does appear to be a bridge too far for many independents and many moderate voters when you have one of the two major parties totally denying the 2020 election. All of Trump's hand-picked political candidates like Kari Lake and Doug Mastriano and Blake Masters, these are all people who shit the bed and got blown out the worst. It was actually the more standard old-school Republicans like Kemp who did a better job in the last election. And so I think that Trump has a stench on him to normie America, where even though the points you make are valid about how weak Biden is, I look at Trump as equally as weak, if not potentially more weak, because the 91 criminal charges.
Yeah. So, Kyle, let me address all those. I get them. I understand that they're interesting and fair points. So let me knock them down one by one from my perspective. So, number one, is Trump a popular candidate overall in the country? No. He 55% of this country pretty much despises him. So how did Hillary Clinton lose to him? How did Joe Biden only beat him in the Electoral College by 44,000 votes? Like, people forget how razor thin the margin was in the Electoral College, right? And so why is it that the Democrats are doing terrible against a super unpopular candidate? That's because they keep offering the American people something that they definitively do not want, and they have now vomited out several times. And the Democrats say, I don't care. I'm going to try to shove it right back in your mouth. They don't want the establishment. They despise the establishment. Every poll says we hate politicians. We hate the media. We hate everyone in D.C. So, and the Democrats go, oh, so you'd like the most establishment politician of our lifetime, Hillary Clinton. Oh, you don't want her? How about we pick someone almost as establishment as her, Joe Biden? And they're like, how clear do we have to be? So here's the most important analogy. So I don't know if you guys are football fans, but these days the Raiders aren't playing well. So if you say Trump's like the Raiders, come on, anybody can beat the Raiders. So let's just put up anyone we want in the Super Bowl and we'll win. I'd say, whoa, what are you doing? Why would you put up the Bears? The Bears are the only ones that could lose to the Raiders. Why don't we put the Chiefs up against the Raiders? Granted, that would not be a Super Bowl. I get that. They're both in the AFC. But you play the Chiefs. Run the Chiefs. Don't run the Bears. Why are you picking the worst candidate when you could pick a perfectly great candidate? So now, let's put me aside for a second. We can come back to me, because give me the mic and I will run all of these guys out of town. They like put me in a debate, I'd win in a landslide. It wouldn't even be close. So, okay, but you could say Cenk's crazy. I don't believe that. Fine, no problem. Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania, crushed a Trump acolyte by about 20 points. He's very popular. He's strong. He's establishment enough not to freak out the establishment. And he's slightly progressive in a way that could actually appeal to the average man. Would he win Pennsylvania? Easily. We take Pennsylvania off the board. That's already ours. And then he would do 5 to 10 points better than Biden almost everywhere. Why are we purposely picking a candidate who's nearly the worst candidate that we have? 75% of Americans say they don't think Biden can even finish a second term. Literally 3/4 of the country thinks he's going to die in office if he wins again. Are we lunatics to pick that guy? To give you a context of the Real Clear Politics polls, Kyle. So but recently Biden was down by a point. He's inched back to a tie, to your point, right? But remember, the Democratic candidate, no matter who it is, has to win the popular vote by 5 points. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote by 3 million and got crushed in the Electoral College. Joe Biden won the popular vote by 7 million, 4.5 points, and barely eked out a victory. We need 5 points to be relatively safe that a fascist is not going to take over the country. And Joe Biden is not going to beat Trump by 5. He's never been close to being above Trump by 5. The only time that he was close to beating Trump by 5 was on election day of 2020. And all he's done is slide dramatically down since then. He was at 54 at the time, and he eked out a victory. Now he's at 39. So 15 points lower than when he almost lost. And people in their right mind think that that's the right candidate to run. No way. Joe Biden's going to lose.com. Joe Biden's going to lose.com. It's obvious. It's super obvious to anyone who's looking at it objectively.
So
enjoy your bombastic.
Yeah, okay. So just a couple points to respond to that. There was a poll that just came out with had Biden up 7. So and that's not the average, to be fair, but my point is I absolutely think it's possible that he hits that benchmark. I'm not as convinced as you that there's no way he can win. To your point about all the other Democrats, part of me believes what you're saying, but the other part of me is like, I don't know, man, name recognition is like really, really, really important. And Biden's got the highest name recognition in the world, and nobody knows who Josh Shapiro is other than Pennsylvanians. But look, let's go candidate for candidate to get into the specifics here, because I have a little bit more of a nuanced view on, if a candidate is more electable than Biden. So if you tell me Kamala is more electable than Biden, I disagree. If you tell me Pete Buttigieg is more electable than Biden, I disagree. I agree with you that almost everybody after that is probably more electable than him, although the name recognition thing complicates it a little bit. But like Newsom, J.B. Pritzker, Warnock, potentially Whitmer, like I feel like all of them are probably more electable than Biden. Do you believe that, like, no, literally all of those candidates are less electable than Biden?
Okay, so first of all, let's note that I'm the only presidential candidate in history that keeps arguing for other candidates. But that's because, look, guys, I'm in this because Donald Trump said that immigrants are poisoning the blood of our nation. That specific quote is only used so far in world history by Adolf Hitler and Donald Trump. That's him saying, look, don't say I didn't warn you. I used literal Nazi quotes. And I had dinners with Nazis, and I said that there were not good people on Nazi side. So we have to beat Trump. We have to beat Trump. And going in with a wounded antelope is insanity. So, okay, so then people go, you're right, Kyle. They go, Kamala Harris then. She's next in the line of succession. Did we vote on being a monarchy and I missed it? No, line of succession is when you're president. If something, God forbid, happens to the president, then you're in the line of succession. But there's no line of succession in primaries and in elections. No, Kamala Harris will enter the primary and she'll get annihilated because she's a terrible candidate. So I agree with you. Pete Buttigieg is so establishment, so elitist, so unlikable by the average man that I would put him in the Biden category as well. But as you just acknowledged, every governor would do better than Biden. Here, I'll give you another governor, Andy Beshear. A, literally the most popular governor in the country. B, he's a Democratic governor in Kentucky. Does anyone want to make the argument that Governor Beshear wouldn't be a better candidate than Joe Biden? Well, I mean, if you make that argument, you're just admitting you're so biased you can't see straight. Of course, the guy who's the most popular governor is going to do way better than the guy who's an incredibly unpopular president. And I know it breaks a lot of people's heart to hear that, but 39%, my whole life, if an incumbent was under 50%, every analyst agreed he was in massive trouble and very likely to lose. Now we have an incumbent under 40%. Never happened. An incumbent winning when they're under 40% literally has never happened. But we think we don't need the Chiefs. We don't need the most popular governor. We don't need guys who would be up 5, 10 points on Trump. Let's go with a wounded antelope. No, hell no. Even if you're not going to pick me, which let's go, let's have a real race, and then I'm happy to run against Beshear, Shapiro, Newsom, and make my case, jankforamerica.com. But for now, guys, if I don't go up in the polls and I don't put enough pressure on Biden, the Democrats in Washington are going to sleepwalk us right into that iceberg. And then when we're in the freezing water going, oh my God, what happened? How did we lose democracy? How did we live under a fascist state? I'm going to tell you guys, what did I tell you? Why did you run the weakest candidate in history against a fascist? What kind of insanity is that? Pick any random Democratic governor and they'll do way better than Biden.
So I don't think either one of us is arguing that Biden is a particularly strong candidate. I'm not as convinced that he's for sure going to lose. And I also see clearly that we could do worse. And I just pulled up, this is the Democratic primary nomination without Biden, you know, where they float a bunch of names and see who comes out on top. Kamala Harris, 29% is number one. Number two is Hillary Clinton, and number three is Pete Buttigieg. I think all three of those are way worse than Biden in every respect, both from a policy perspective, but also from an electability perspective. So it is not clear to me at all that if you actually did open it up to the wide world of Democratic whoever, that you would end up with someone who was better in any respect than Joe Biden.
So, Crystal, first of all, what a weird poll where they polled like only the three most toxic Democrats in the country.
No. There's more people
way
on the
more.
list.
Next
I'm looking
comes
at it
Newsom,
now.
next comes AOC, then Warren, Stacey Abrams,
so now
J.B. Pritzker, Amy Klobuchar, a bunch of people were polled. Those just were the top three. Those were who the Democratic base voters were like, yes, Kamala Harris.
Yeah, so guys, so this gets to a giant misnomer. Name recognition is massively important in primaries. It is not at all important in a presidential race. Do you think that there's any chance that the people, by the time the election is rolling around, are going to be like, oh, I don't know who the Democratic candidate is. I guess I'll just vote against them. No, they're all going to know who the Democratic candidate for president is. That's not even close. Did they know who Michael Dukakis was when he started running for president? No, nobody knew. By the time the election rolled around, everyone knew who Michael Dukakis was, and they knew what their choices were. Now, that didn't turn out well because, again, we picked a super weak candidate. Democrats love to pick weak candidates. The perfect candidate would have been Fetterman pre-stroke. Give me somebody strong, somebody populist, somebody progressive, somebody that's actually fighting for the average man, and we'll crush the Republicans. Fetterman crushed the Republicans post-stroke. At the time, he couldn't even speak. He went to a debate and couldn't speak, and he still beat the Republicans. In Pennsylvania, where Joe Biden is losing today. So if you say, hey, Cenk, your name recognition isn't high enough to win a primary, I say, look, that's a fair argument against me in particular. But if you say, oh, not enough people know Andy Bashir, and by the time that he is the Democratic candidate and an election rolls around, they're going to be like, oh, who is that? I don't know who he is. I guess I'll vote for Trump. 0% chance of that.
Yeah. Guys, you're just getting a couple teaser clips from this interview. The real interview is way longer than this. It's probably an hour and 30 minutes or even more than that. So do us a big favor. Go below to Substack, sign up for Crystal, Kyle, and Friends, and watch the whole interview. And you could even sign up for free and get the audio podcast version a day later on Saturday. But if you want to watch it on Friday, sign up below, Substack. Thank you all.